Okay. Um, it should be good now. Wonderful. So yes, just a small update from me because I just haven't been very active in the last years and months, which doesn't mean nothing has been happening. So yes, for those who are watching later and may not know me, I am Oona from CE5 Europe, where we do contact work with our space sisters and brothers. And over the last few years, I've been wondering where we are heading as a species. And in my curiosity, I began to travel the world to see what is happening in other places. The first thing I did was I went to Kenya, where I spent a lot of time, many nights, just lying there and looking into the stars. And we have Kenya is the equator goes right through Kenya, so the way you look at the stars, you can see, you can see all the way to the north and all the way to the south. So you've got a very different view on the sky and what is happening there. And from Kenya, I went to New Zealand because a CE5 friend was hoping to set up a community which would include our space brothers and sisters to be able to land and us to learn about communication with them. And that project didn't really take off. So we went, well, I went from there, spent a month in Tahiti on my way to the US. And in the US, I did spend some time amongst the people who are around Dr. Greer. I also went on another of Dr. Greer's expeditions. Then I went with a team of people who are around Dr. Greer on a private CE5 to Arizona. I mean, lots of things were happening. We also, Pat Pearsall and I went to see the Marfa lights, which are lights, I mean, they're there. You can't help but see them. They came into our car, they touched us. I also went to Canada, where I met with Corinne, whom you may remember from doing meditations. I met Augusta, who also was part of the meditations we did regularly. I met with Ginny, all of these CE5 people, and in Canada I met with Celia, who wrote the handbook for making contact. I met with Samoya, who runs the CE5, not the CE5, Fire Up the Grid, who had this particular experience with ETs bringing her son back to life. I also did a week of upgrading my brain with externalizedmind.com, which was fascinating. I'll put those links below when I put it online, this video. So yes, here I am in the US at the moment. What is next? I will be going to Guatemala next week for a few weeks, particularly to Tikal, which is all about opening the crown chakra and is very much connected to the Pleiades. And after that, it could be that I come to Sardinia. We have as a guest Aeshwa, who is working on a project in Sardinia. Now, Aeshwa and we met online in a year or two ago or so, when we were both invited to talk at a German summit, an online summit. about different aspects of building community. And we were then both interviewed by Marlene from Peace People, and those interviews are on YouTube. Again, I'll put all the links to everything once everything is live and up. Yeah, when I was interviewed for Peace People, I was in Kenya and heading to New Zealand. Curious about that project, but now I'm very curious about this project that Aeshwa Rainbow Dragon and some of his friends have started. So welcome, Aeshwa Rainbow Dragon. And the first question I have for you is, why Sardinia?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Really grateful, and thanks for everyone who has made the time today to join us. Before proceeding, I just wanted to give thanks and acknowledgement to the land, to the elements, to all the light beings around us, guiding us, helping us in these transformational times. I have lighted a candle here to guide us, representing the fire in our hearts, so that we may not be guided by ego or the mind, but by love from our hearts. And I wanted to also acknowledge all the ancient knowledge of this land, the gatekeepers, the wisdom keepers. And I wanted to say thanks to them for also being present with us. So why Sardinia? Sardinia has been on my mind for a while, and I'm part also of an esoteric school belonging to Damanhur. Some of you might have heard it. It's the largest eco-village in Europe, and they have an ancient tradition following the Atlantean and Egyptian path. Basically, all the ancient wisdom in the planet that spread anywhere from the Incas, the Mayas, India, Indonesia, Tibet, etc. And so we talked a lot about it in our school of meditation and our esoteric school. It wasn't until about 3 years ago that coincidentally I met one of the other members who's here with us, that we started thinking about Sardinia for many reasons. We started talking about the giants, the many hundreds, more than 800 giants caves that have been found and recovered and are preserved here in Sardinia. And that led us to start fantasizing about perhaps we should go there or create a community, difficult times, the lockdowns, and it's a very peaceful place. It's healthy. There's nature. It's really unpopulated. Many of the people are living. It's in the blue zone area. People tend to live for many years. And so for many reasons started attracting me. But it wasn't the right time. I had just left Damanhur and I went on a journey of 18 countries in 2020, 13 countries in 2021. And I joined another community called Schloss Tempelhof in Germany. I'm a community consultant. I've been doing this for more than 2 years. And there I needed to do some work. Coincidentally, again, the Mamos arrived 1 week after I arrived, as I kept on asking for signs if it was the place for me to be. So many things happened and they kept on leading me. So it wasn't until the full moon at the end of August this year that 5 of us were ready to take the leap, and we came down south exploring different locations to create a health retreat spiritual center. And we spent a lot of time in Tuscany with other communities, and we took a ferry to Sardinia. When we arrived to Sardinia, we traveled around the island, and this island, if you haven't been here, is just full of old energy, ancient rocks, feels very Atlantean. And we ended up, for my birthday, to doing a meditation inside a giant's tomb. And inside this tomb, all of us received clear messages, different messages, but all of us receive a download, very powerful download that led us. After I came out, I had to go into the forest, into the woods for a little while to digest what I was feeling. And at the end of this journey, we all went back to our lives, and 3 of us decided to drop everything we were doing and come here full time to start this project. Sorry, it was a long answer, but that was the shortest I could do.
No, that's wonderful. You mentioned the Mamos. So just for those who don't know, many probably do know, the Mamos are, well, maybe you, why don't you say who the Mamos are?
So the Mamos are the priests, the spiritual class of a group, an indigenous group of people who live in the Sierra Nevada, the Santa Marta in Colombia. That's where my background is from. And so they are either the only ones of one of very few that we might not know, group of indigenous people that were never conquered by the Europeans. So they went in hiding, and it wasn't until the late 1990s that they came down from the mountain and they revealed themselves. See, this mountain, if you count that it starts from under the ocean, it's taller than Mount Everest, and it contains all the altitudes, all the temperatures, and it contains so much biodiversity. No coincidence that the KOGIS are the keepers of the biodiversity of the planet. And so that's where they live, that's where they're from. And after coming down, they made a film, and it was called, maybe some of you have seen it, it's called A Message from the Elder Brothers to the Younger Brothers from the Center of the World. 15 years later, basically the message was, hey, wake up, brothers, see what's happening to the environment, see the destruction we're doing. We must change our ways. 15 years later, so they would go back up to where they were, and they just keep complete isolation. 15 years later, they came back down again and said, hey, what happened? You didn't hear our message. The earth is still degrading. We are not really reconnecting to her, and we haven't really changed our ways. And so after those 15, 16 years, and they started becoming more open and traveling a bit and spreading the message of healing ourselves and healing the planet.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I've met them too. They're very, very special.
I spent 2 weeks with them there in the Sierra Nevada. Have you been to Santa Marta?
No, I haven't been to Colombia. I met them at a ceremony of the meeting of the condor and the eagle in Arizona some years ago. And I know that John Valo Melchizedek also worked with them. So that was around that. I think that was 2010 or so.
Yes, more recently, they had this amazing talk about AI in Paris. And it still just amazes me how these people who live in complete isolation without phones, mobile computers, or any technology really, they are able to talk with so much wisdom, heart, and authority on what's going on with artificial intelligence. It's online if any of you are interested to look it up, or I'm happy to share some of that under the links.
Yes, please do send me the link, and then I'll put it in.
I'll make a note.
Yeah. Let's look back on your personal journey, Aeshwa. How did you become interested in ETs?
I think that it's really within me. I've always been pretty curious. I am a walk-in. I came into this body when it was 7 years old. This body drowned. And when I came into this body, my family noticed many different changes in my personality. And after that, I was really a bookworm, and I told my family that I needed to leave, that I came with a job and a purpose, and I had to go traveling. And of course, they wouldn't let me go. I was just 7 years old and 8 years old. And I said, come on, it's been a year. Can I go now? And my parents always tell me stories when I was a child of things of that nature. I started remembering lives, specifically triggered by a series of books I was reading, Lobsang Rampa. And so I remember a life, because my parents asked me, what kind of haircut do you want? And I said, what do you mean, what kind of haircut? Just take all the hair off. And then memories of being a monk in Tibet and in Thailand and in Japan and in China, all this Asian life started coming. And ever since then, for me, ETs were just normal. They're our human brothers. They just don't live in the same planet. Some of them inside some of them outside, but we are all the same. We share, you know, a lot of us share uh, particles or part of our DNA. So to me, it was always matter of fact. And so throughout my life, I've had many encounters. I've seen many lights in different countries, in Florida, in Ecuador, in Mexico, in Spain. Wherever I go, I seem to attract them, to see them. Most recently in Australia, I had an encounter which was the closest I ever had when I was helping a friend who was downloading certain devices to help humanity. And basically, he was being attacked not to release this. And because I was helping him, they attacked me as well and told me not to intervene, not to be part of it, not to help me, that it was none of my business. And so it's been a long journey of sightings from lights in the sky all the way to having them in front of me in the same room.
Yeah, you said the walk-in happened after you drowned?
Well, this body drowned and then I came in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, my consciousness anyhow. Yes.
Yeah, and you don't remember much of what was before. Yeah.
No, very few memories. I've been able to recover some because I'm sure they're in the DNA, in the memory of this vessel, but not too many. I don't remember much before then.
Mm. Yes. Talk about portals to us.
So, wow, portals. So also in Australia, I was working with an organization called the Great Gathering, led by Miriam Delicado. And she's doing also great work with indigenous peoples around the planet. And one of those groups, the intention was to gather the four oldest indigenous groups in the planet that have the most knowledge, so that by starting with them, it could spread to many others who have forgotten their ways. And these four groups were the indigenous in Australia, then the Kausan in South Africa, then the Wiris in Mexico, in the desert of Mexico, the Deer people, they're also known as, and of course the KOGIS in the Sierra Nevada in Colombia. And while I was in Australia, I mean, I can go back all the way from when I was a teenager. I was back then also reading another book that was about opening portals and channels, and I was really young and I just started doing what the book was sharing, you know, word by word, without really much knowledge. And I remember one time waking up while I was levitating, and entities were coming through. And so I think that's the experience that I remember. I think that was probably one of the first strongest ones that I had. But after that, I because I didn't really know what I was doing, I got quite scared. So I kind of shut that down for a while. So I've had a few others, but in Australia, I remember going to different areas, being led by hints. I wasn't told exactly where, but kind of some of the elders hinting as if it was a test, or see if I was worthwhile, or if I could be sensitive enough to find it myself. But some remote areas all through Australia, but this one specifically in South Australia, where it just felt really old, a place that, you know, it's really ancient. The rocks just kind of talk to you in a way, but the rocks also have this kind of alive feeling. And to me, they kind of had the shape of something that was molded or almost artificial. And I came to understand that they were like scanners, allowing you to go through different places that perhaps most people don't see them. Perhaps they're invisible to many. And they pretty much open portals and gates to go both underground into other dimensions. And so that was another big encounter I had. Fast forward, my encounter with the KOGIS was also no coincidence. I don't think that there are coincidences in life. I met a group of shamans. They are part of an organization called the Divine University. And they're doing a lot of amazing work around the planet, helping activate many people, going to sacred places such as Egypt and others around the planet. But one of the projects is also to support and work with the KOGIS. And with this particular project, what they're doing is setting up gates around the planet, one in each continent, to accelerate the process that we're doing. It's kind of like doing acupuncture and setting up interdimensional portals. So a lot of these light beings, as far as I understood, don't need to wait to have a vessel or a physical body to come on down and help us in the process of ascension. And so the first portal was set up in Australia, near Brisbane. The second portal in Mexico, in the Yucatan Peninsula. The third portal for Europe was set up in the property, in the land that I co-own. I'm a caretaker of this lovely land, with 5 other Scandinavian women. I also have a background in Scandinavia. It's the countries where I've spent most of my life. And so this property, which we were living and working, had a spiritual retreat center, and it's 7 kilometers from the temples of Humankind, which is one of the main resources Damanhur is known for. Damanhur in Egyptian language means the city of light. And so basically all the esoteric knowledge, before it was burned at the Alexandria Library in Egypt, was taken to a small town called Damanhur in Egypt, which still exists. You can find it. And so that knowledge went on the ground until these times when it's time to share with the planet. And so an avatar was born. His name was Oiberto Auraidi, which took on the name of Falco Tarasaco. He's dead now, but he is the founder of Damanhur. And so these temples were built in a very specific knot of synchronic lines in the planet. Now, they're not ley lines. There are many different types of energetic lines in the planet. These are synchronic lines. And this is the place, and they're alive. They're always moving around, and they have been more powerful in different parts of the planet, just like in Tibet. It used to be, but it's not any longer. So this synchronic line is not, it's in a particular place about 50 kilometers from Torino, in Italy, and that is where these temples were built. And basically these temples contain so much knowledge that when you go there, you get activated. A lot of people remember, a lot of people, memories come, many things happen. It's really a work of art on one hand, and in the other hand, it's just so full with so many different languages, knowledge, wisdom, paintings, colors, things under. It's really something out of this world, literally. And so the influence of this temple with the synchronic lines just goes, it spreads across, and so creating ripples effects. And so this particular place, MATVA SEI, 7 kilometers from there, part of one of the 4 main communities of the Federation of Damanhur called Arca Tentiris. And that's where, coincidentally, the European gate started being built. The next one will be built in Brazil. And so all of these gates, which we're talking about gates, are a 20-year project. So I was initiated as ritually as one of the gatekeepers of this particular portal, and the work goes on. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you. You're touching on so many different things, and one could expand on any of those. We're just covering a huge, huge area here. There will be the possibility to ask questions in a wee while, but let's continue covering ground. We've looked at the ET contact aspect of what you're building in Sardinia, and I know you're also looking for land where peaceful contact can be made. But the project is much, much bigger. What other aspects are included in the project?
So yes, I mean, coming here, first of all, it was the calling of the land. I mentioned earlier that we all had a download, and my personal download, some of it I was told not to share, but the part I can share, it was just basically, I mean, I've always had this beautiful, strong connection to Pachamama, to the earth, but there was a sense of, I put both my hands on the soil, and I know it sounds cliche, but it's like you keep on going on deeper and deeper levels. Because if I say, yeah, love for Mother Earth, yes, we all have love for Mother Earth. But I started feeling nurturing love, motherly love, sensual love, sexual love. I mean, all kinds of love that you can think of, intellectual, stimulating, all of them at once. And I was touching the sand, and it didn't feel like sand. It felt like water, and it felt like it was touching me back and responding to whatever I was feeling. I just went into and none of us took any substances or ingested anything, just to be clear on this. We were all just meditating. And after that, I felt her pain. I also felt her love. I had so many emotions. I cried. I was happy. It was an intense feeling filled with many emotions. I felt both the spirit of the Apu, of the mountain where we were. I felt both the spirit of Yemaya, Tritone, Poseidon, Neptune, whatever you call it, both the masculine, the feminine, all the aspect I want, the softness of the sea, of the water, the warmth, the sun. But also one of the main energies I felt were of this giant, which for me was just something intellectual that I had started researching. And I knew that, yes, they were here. You know, we hear stories from so many different sacred books around the planet, and the Nephilim and the angels and the gods and the daughters of the men mix. And out of this came the giants. And we know the story of David and Goliath, blah, blah, blah. But really, I never really, it was more intellectual. And even while we were there, I saw this amazing giant cave, which, you know, if you start thinking logically, why would anyone build this kind of tomb? But, you know, let alone more than 800 that have been found so far. But when I felt the spirit of the giant of the cave, it was like there was a lot of gentleness actually inside of him, but gratefulness in the sense of like, wow, finally, you know, you guys have come. Like, what took you so long? You know, we've been waiting. Like, here I am. And the funny thing is that he said, and I am hungry and thirsty. So I promised him that I would come back with some offerings. And that's kind of what was happening there. And so that's part of the reason why I'm here. Beyond that, and all the intellectual and mental knowledge and memories that I have been acquiring throughout this lifetime, also the knowledge that I have acquired through my studies in esoteric schools. But everything points that this island, it's an Atlantean island. There's a strong connection. Of course, it's not the only spot. There are other spots. And even here in Greece, in Spain, there are some other islands who are part of this. But that feeling of that there are wisdom keepers here, somewhere inside, hidden in caves, in canyons, and they're ready to bring back not only the knowledge, the wisdom, but technology. And they're waiting for a group of people who are ready to carry this on, to bring it out, to share it. And that was really strong within the message that I was receiving. And so part of that was, well, more than 20 years, more than 2 decades, I was led. I had a double life, one in the corporate world and one within communities, and learning about alternative forms of construction, self-sufficiency, gardening, resiliency, food processing, et cetera, conflict resolution, peaceful resolution, different forms of democracy, decision-making processes. And I realize now, you know, it's always easier looking back why our lives has taken us in a different path, in a different journey, or why we have learned whatever we learned, which has brought all of us to the point we are in our lives, right? And that for me was that sense of like, okay, yeah, I understand why I have been learning, living, co-creating, founding so many communities and intentional community-related organizations. And to me, it's like, well, I need to put that knowledge and that wisdom into something more concrete, tangible, because the times that we are living right now, it's all pointing out to a major transformation in the world, and that is financial, economical, health-wise, in terms of land, in terms of population. We can all see it. I mean, the signs are really clear worldwide, everywhere. And what better place that this place where all of these energies are coinciding through so many different lines that are pointing out in this direction in my life. And that's part of why our community, which we decided to call Blue Giants. Blue, because of the blue zone in Sardinia, the blue skies, the blue oceans, in so many beautiful shades of blue. because of the blue stars. And giants, obviously, because of the experience we had with the giants and the many giants' tombs in this giant island, right? Which reminds me a lot of Solomon Islands in the Pacific, which has a pretty similar story. I don't know if you're aware, but has a very similar story.
Yes, thank you. And we are always being careful when being online. So, I know that one of your interests is, when you go into details of what's to happen in community, it has also to do with energy devices and healing. And as you mentioned, permaculture and peaceful living and all of that. Now, you mentioned you have a business background. Would you like to say more about that?
Sure. I've worked in marketing, business, finance, international taxation. So yes, that's my business background.
Yeah, sovereignty. Yes, and the others, I think that you said there's 3 of you there. The other 2 have business backgrounds too, from
Yes,
what I know.
true.
Yes,
But
so I think not
coincidentally,
wonderful
all
to have
yes,
both.
yes, and all 3 of us have had to leave our previous lives and our business lives to a healing life. So all of us have become healers in different ways and paths. But yeah, we all, through amazing, crazy synchronicities, have been pretty much actually pushed into learning more about healing, whether through acupuncture, herbal medicine, massage, breathing techniques, yeah, psychologically, mentally, coaching, qigong, that kind of thing. So all of us have been led towards the healing and the shamanistic aspects in 3 different, very different forms and ways and paths, but we have also all been led and arrived there.
Yeah, yeah. So Europe has a lot of intentional communities, and many of them, they rise and fall and they work so or so. And especially most of the ones I have come across were mostly based on survival and on permaculture, and sometimes with a tinge of spirituality, and being nice to each other, I'll say. But the spiritual aspect of Blue Giants is far greater and far deeper. Now, for you, how is Blue Giants, this project, how is it different from other projects?
So as a community consultant, I actually consult and teach and have been leading groups to create communities for more than 2 decades. And when I'm talking about communities, I share with them that most communities fail, just like most businesses fails. And one of the main reasons why communities and businesses fail is because of finances and economics. And usually there is a lot of idealism and not enough practical knowledge and being grounded and what's possible or not. One of the differences in our co-founding team is that we all have had businesses and still are able to derive income from our businesses. So it's not that we are dropping the mainstream world, but we are using it to transfer both our knowledge, our wisdom, and our finances towards a more sustainable life in a gradual process. So we are not cutting any cords. And all of us are wise, experienced, mature. We're not teenagers or in our 20s or 30s. So I think that makes a big difference, that we've gained wisdom through our lives, our work, our experiences, our past. So that's one of them, the financial and economical aspect. The second aspect, when you're doing anything in life, is that you have the actual knowledge, and not only theoretical or intellectual, but also practical and physical. And I have that knowledge. I have been living in communities most of my life. I've become a consultant. So I've been helping many groups and navigating through helping people both creating and communities that were about to fail and bring them back, just like in businesses. So we are blessed enough to have both of these areas covered, which are the two main reasons why communities fail. And the third aspect is the clarity of the spiritual guidance that we have. The fourth aspect is that none of us are really doing it for ourselves. We know that we're doing this for many other people who will come and arrive. And there is one other aspect that everything that we're putting into, we firmly believe that we are caretakers and guardians of Mother Earth. All this idea, like many of the native people say it and know it, how can we own Mother Earth? So the idea is that this land is going to be land to be freed, land that we are going to be their guardians, the caretakers. It's our mother. And so I think all of these aspects coming together leads us to that. And connecting to you, your project, and your audience is that we are looking for a specific type of land that is secluded, that there is a lot of forest, that there is a lot of undisturbed places, where we create sanctuaries, safe havens, a place both for the animal kingdom, for the one-legged, for the plants, for the minerals, for the crystals, and also for many other beings that are in a higher dimension, for all the elementals, representatives of the earth, the gnomes, of the air, the sylphides, of the fire, the salamanders, of the water, the nymphs of the water, and the ether. And furthermore, for all our brothers and sisters who are both inside and outside of the planet, a place where they can be welcomed out of our own free will, so that we can balance the scales that were broken long ago. Even though there was an agreement of non-intervention, this was broken by a particular side that has enslaved humanity and that created a holographic, a lower density hologram to cover our fifth dimensionality, which is where we're moving towards now. That is the awakening, that is the ascension. As we increase our frequencies and we go through this space, through time and space, as the planet rotates and moves to this high energy photonic belt, that is the new Aquarian age. That, there are many names, but that is exactly what we're all facing, and everyone who's on Earth cannot escape it. And so it's about collaborating with them, having this beautiful sanctuary and embassy of love, of peace, with the highest frequencies to co-create a new golden era for Earth and for all of humanity.
Yes. You're building something that no man, no woman, no one can build by themselves. Having that consciousness is huge.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, we're all channels, and really, this is a vessel and I'm using it. It's not me, it's not my ideas, none of us. And we're all pretty aware of that. And so I think one of the biggest lessons for humanity, from my humble perspective, is that of learning cooperation and collaboration. Especially in Northern Europe or wealthy countries, we've become really independent. And the more independent we are, the more financially wealthy we are, the least spiritual humanity has become, and the more we move further away from our source, from our connection to the earth, to our mother. And so for me, it's about going back to that, going back to reconnecting and allowing both our bodies, our mind, our souls to cooperate and to collaborate, and not only with other humans, but also with all the kingdoms. We have a responsibility to really be their caretakers, their guardians. They don't have a voice. Many indigenous people I've met are really fully aware and practice this, of taking turns in being a voice for an animal or for a plant, because otherwise, if we don't become a voice for the weakest link, both in our society and in our world, they're not going to have a voice. It's always only the human perspective, And that perspective, unfortunately, has been of destroying, of taking, of pillaging, and turning it into money and power. And it's enough. We need to go back to that beautiful balance. Otherwise, we'll end up destroying ourselves. Funny enough, in Damanhur, there's a lovely, beautiful tradition where most of us take an animal name and then a vegetable name and then a divinity name and a crystal name. And so sure, it sounds funny for people that somebody's called whale or bee or leopard or penguin or giraffe, but it is about that, about channeling the frequency of the animal, especially those who are being threatened or almost extincted, so that these humans are able to be and provide a voice for this animal. And anytime you mention the name of the plant or the animal or the crystal or the divinity, you transmute those frequencies and you become a voice for that animal. And everybody hears it, and you bring your consciousness and your thought, at least for that moment, into that particular species. And the name of animals and species, there are a particular frequency that has an amazing and powerful job for the planet, just like the whales and the porpoises, the dolphins. They carry a frequency that's holding the life in the oceans. Just like the frequency of the bee has that frequency of fertility, of fertilizing the plants and keeping the life of the vegetable kingdom. So there's much more of the frequency and the jobs of the animals. When people think of spiders, yeah, sure, the spider, and it builds the web and all of that. There is much more. They are building webs of energy in higher dimensions. And so all the animals, all of us, everything in existence has a job, has a role, has a purpose. And we need every single piece of the puzzle to maintain that very delicate, fragile balance of all living beings in our planet. So it goes beyond just that. Yeah.
Yes, and what you said about the weakest link, I learned that when I was leading spiritual dog sled journeys in Greenland. We'd go out on dog sleds with the hunters, and at one point a sled turned over. One of the young hunters, whatever he did, it didn't work, and everything was spilled all over the snow. And my dog sled buddy, he said, "Can I go and help him?" And our guide, our hunter, he said, "No, he has to learn to be strong." So the idea was that we are there in case he needs us, but he has to learn to take care of his own responsibilities. He has to, pick up the things himself. And that's where I learned how to be with someone with the weakest link. Be there for them, but don't do it for them. So yeah, that's beautiful. Now, crystals,
empower them.
Yes.
Help them with developing their own confidence,
They
but
have to
allow them, create a
as
safe space, create the right environment for them to be able to do it on their own. And we must do that with ourselves and with all other human beings. I mean, we forget sometimes, It's nice to remind each other. So thank you for that reminder, Oona.
We always have to remind each other. And also I was going to ask you to talk a little bit about crystals, because my experience when I was in New Zealand, I had the great honor of coming in touch with the universal codes that were encoded into a crystal that was left on Earth by a spacecraft from Syria, Sirius. So yes, an amazing experience. But tell me what you know about crystals and what your experiences are.
Yeah, what you say opens up also so many different paths. But before moving forward, the other thing I want to say, yes, reminding each other, but gently, patiently, and loving. It's the best way we can do for each other, for animals, for all sentient beings. So about crystals, I have crystals. I work with crystals. I use them sometimes in my healing sessions. Right now, I have two who decided to come with me for this interview. One of them is an ametrine. It's a combination of amethyst and citrine. Came from Bolivia. And this other one, it's a Herkimer diamond. It comes from New York. Manhattan is the only place in the world where they are found. Yes. But yes, I love crystals. I have also two small skulls here in one of my shaman necklaces. I love skulls, but that would lead us into the 13 sacred skulls, and maybe we get off topic. But
Yes.
crystals, we mentioned that Damanhur also encourages people who, with their own free will, they can choose also the name of a crystal and carry it with themselves. We are also crystals. We have crystalline bodies within ourselves. And I think that part of our ascension process is not only activating our 12-strand DNA, but also our crystal bodies. And so there are particular visualizations and meditations that I carry about the activation of our crystalline bodies. And I've been given some gifts in some of the journeys that I've been to with other shamans and in different places around the world. And one of them was a beautiful diamond crystal, and another one was a lovely emerald that was also given to me. Yes. What more else about crystals? Oh, you were talking about Sirius and crystals. Well, so the founder of the Divine University, Kuala Siriana, she's also a walk-in that came from Sirius. And as part of this 20-year activation process of the gates around the planet, which I forgot to mention that it was an effort from the Divine University with the KOGIS, the Mamos from the Sierra Nevada, and Damanhur in the Italian gate, the European gate, there at MATVA SEI at Damanhur, where I co-own a property with other Scandinavian women. But the activation of these gates requires at least 20 tons of crystals. These crystals are buried underground in order to give back to Mother Earth. And because they carry such high frequencies, they are able to anchor and to project both in time and space, multidimensionally, up and down, as above, so below, in every direction. And so you can imagine carrying the weight of these crystals and digging holes, and a lot of it starts by hand while in trance, and asking for permission and charging them and putting certain codes, certain numbers, certain sounds, certain frequencies that go underground. We do this also with something we call Unamos, and they were also only known to the KOGIS, and they were quite surprised that this group of women knew also about them. And so what we do with this specific star light language that's encoded, and now we're doing it instead of clay like they did, because the clay is breaking down after so many thousands and thousands and who knows how many years that the Mamos have in the Sierra Nevada. They're being replaced by copies on granite so that they last longer. These granite circles, plates, are placed on top of these crystals that we activate and we put under the ground. Basically, like where we were, and I can share a little bit more if you like to about the process of the gate. We are, and look, it's 20 years, so I'm just going to say a few things. Besides, we've only been doing it for 4 years in Italy. But basically, it's an underground, upside-down pyramid, and in the king's chamber, there is a particular silk thread cloth that has been hand painted with all these specific downloads, activating sounds and prayers, with time capsules and prayers that we did with the Mamos. We did a process of 3 months, meeting every new moon, of charging the elements in a circular motion. The Mamos, if you see them, they're always doing this, they're doing prayers. A lot of people think that just because they're chewing coca leaves and using basically the symbol of both yoni and a lingam with a round container that comes from a seed, the poporo, and sticking a long piece of wood in it constantly all day, the masculine and the feminine. You're creating, sending out prayers. We did these activations for 3 months. All these time capsule prayers, seeds were put inside the rope that was placed inside the king's chamber under this upside down pyramid. And then it was covered, and I could go on and on and on with permission and all the kingdoms and the elements. But anyhow, just to share with you the amount of work that goes into building these gates and then placing crystals on there, especially selenite. And then in the end, after 20 years, it's going to look something like Stonehenge, where people don't know really what's under. It's like an iceberg that you only see a small percentage of the tip above ground. And so that's the work that it takes to build these gates. And so I will share with you also their link, because all of the work is done voluntary. Yeah, everybody who travels from all over the world to come do this, including the crystals, is all done on a voluntary basis because it's a gift of service for humanity. So it's really amazing the work they're doing, just like Miriam Delicado and Kuala, the Divine University, and Lelama, and so many others. And that's some of the work. I mean, there's so many beautiful organizations and people doing so many amazing things, and it's hard to be everywhere, to focus just on one of them, but these are some of them that I've been touched deeply with and that I fully support.
Yeah. Yes. Well, Aeshwa, your mind is huge and carries so many different things, and you know, you're mentioning so many things that one could go into detail here or into detail there. We won't do that now, just because
we're close to the hour, so maybe we should start wrapping up. Exactly. And open to Q&As. And if there is any interest in any of the topic, perhaps we could do another meeting on another day.
Yes. So let's just, did you want to speak any more about the vision that you're carrying?
Yes, specifically one of our projects here at Blue Giants in Sardinia. Well, of course, we are based on principles of harmony, of love, of cooperation, of diversity, of self-sufficiency, of growing our own food, 100% organic, of having abundance of water, ideally a thermal water in the land. And we are looking and we are picky, and we are in the process of both fundraising, because then we can get something bigger than what we can afford at the moment with all our pool combined resources, because we know that many other people will come. Not everybody is a founder or a pioneer, but once you're moving in a certain direction, people just like to join after, and that's okay. It's also a gift and a service I came here to do. I honor this responsibility, and above all, I'm enjoying the journey. I'm enjoying the process. I'm having fun, because it's not about the destination, but the journey, just like the poem of Ithaca. Yeah. So it's all good. But the land, we will have pyramids for meditations. We will have, everyone will have a private space. I don't know if people don't in this group know a lot about intentional communities, but perhaps some people think that in communities, everybody's all piled up, being social all the time. No, we all need our private spaces to recharge, to do our own practices, to have time off, time away, and that's very important and essential. But also to protect most of the forest, to have a reserve, a sanctuary for all beings, all sentient beings. And one of the main projects, it's called Shamanteria, and basically it's a retreat healing center where we do research, where we teach, where we share, where we welcome all kinds of alternative holistic practices of healing, and where people come to be healed. So that's one of the main projects, and we offer all kinds, from acupuncture to massage to meditation to medicine plant to all kinds of holistic alternative medicines, but also nature baths and working with sounds, with crystals, with thermal waters, nature baths, nature sounds, etc., etc. All of this is listed in our website. So if any of you are interested, feel free to visit the links to contact us. And if you feel like you want to get involved, there are many different ways you can get involved, whether it is off-site in the distance with any skills that you have, any of your gifts and passions that you like to share, obviously with donations for any particular or specific project, also to help others to come this way. Also, you can come and visit us so that you can meet us and see what I've been sharing. You can see it firsthand. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm thrilled, and I'm very much looking forward to coming. So we're going to take questions now. If you are going to ask a question, you will be on the recording, so just be aware of that. But you can always also send a chat, and all you have to do is raise your hand or just be the next person to unmute. So if there are any questions you have for Aeshwa, now would be a wonderful time.
The first one is free. You don't have to worry about it. Or comments, or perhaps some of your experiences, or something you can relate to what we've been sharing or talking today.
And while we're waiting for questions,
okay, I have a question, because Aeshwa, I mean, he spent quite a lot of time in Damanhur. Can you tell us if you're planning in your new community to do this kind of incredible artwork that people can see in Damanhur? I mean, not necessarily the temple of the humanity, but any artwork that you're planning to have there, to invite artists.
Thank you for being present, Val. And yes, art, music, dance, I think is one of the highest frequencies humans can channel. So definitely. And as an idea to have anything compared to what Damanhur has accomplished, I think that would be quite difficult to imitate. It's quite unique. But certainly, I think art is part of our lives, and I think that we should remember to be like children and be curious and be playful, and any kind of art and creativity is welcome. The founder of Damanhur, Falco, used to say that one of the fastest ways of increasing your frequency and keeping away lower frequencies, darkness, dark forces, etc. is, of course, one is through laughing, having a great sense of humor, but the other one is through art and being spontaneous and just stopping what you're doing and dance a little bit, or whistle, or start singing, or do something that gets you out of the routine, out of the boredom, something that pushes you boundaries of not growing. We have to push our sense of comfort if we really want to grow, So definitely, Val, we'll have some of that. And I hope that when you come and visit, we can share and show you some of that and get more into detail.
Thanks.
Yeah, and thank you, Val, for being here. I'm happy to meet you because I watched your film, which I have also posted on my Instagram and my Facebook and my Telegram channel. So yes, I loved it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Val. It's about community in Bulgaria. So and
Yes.
really interesting aspects. Yeah.
Great film. I also really enjoy it. There is so much knowledge, so much wisdom. And at some point in time, I thought, is this a documentary? Is this real? What part is mythology? What is not? And it just goes to that beautiful gray line that is fascinating. So it allows me to know you a bit better through the film. So thanks for doing that kind of art and sharing it with us.
Thank you.
And Yes, we have a question that I'm going to read out from the chat. Thank you so much for your story. Can you share anything on the fields inside the earth and earth keeping or conserving and protecting the earth?
The fields, not sure
Fields, yeah, the spaces, the
areas.
areas, yeah.
So from my own experience and from the best of my knowledge, there are species that are older than humanity. I know that we were made. We are a mixture of different species, and so there are other species that actually are feeling more earthlings, more from Earth than we are, and for them, this is also their home planet. So as much as we would like to think that it's only ours, it is not. We do share them. Most of the ones remaining, as far as I know, are positive, but there are still some that are on the other side who have been part of enslaving humanity. But all of that is ending, and we are moving in the right direction thanks to the support of our brothers from the Galactic Federation of Worlds. Humanity has an extensive list of many friends of humanity. Falco from Damanhur left an extensive list, and he had so many details that people like Lucas and George Lucas and Steven Spielberg and Gene Roddenberry, they all came and visited to get inspiration and to hear the details about them. But so specifically about on the ground, there are civilizations there, also in different dimensions. You know, you might have heard of Shambhala, and there's Telos, and there are other civilizations who are living in a higher dimension on the ground. So that's what I know and what I believe, what it refers to intraterrenal worlds. Was there any other part of the question?
Inside the earth and earth keeping or conserving and protecting the earth.
Yes, I mean, we know the sacred spots such as Mount Shasta, for example, and there are civilizations that are connected to this powerful energy. And also in other parts of the world, under Tibet, under the Gobi Desert, under Brazil, under the Amazon forest, under Alaska, under Antarctica. And there's still a lot of knowledge and technology and wisdom that's coming up on the water, you know, under the oceans. Not to mention all the bases from many, what do you call them? Different species who come with ships and they have a home underwater. Yes.
Yes, and just for those people who haven't had the experience of seeing extraterrestrials or, you know, earth beings or so, I'll share my experience. It's, you know, we can see everything that's physical. We can see things that are fluid. We can see gas to some extent, but there are other states of being there. And when I saw 2 spacecraft land just 300 meters from me, that was in California, the spacecraft itself was made of, the best way I can describe it, solid light. And the beings that walked around were made of solid light. So they, in a way, they're physical, and in a way they're not physical, depending on how we use that term. And then they did go underneath the earth into what we know is a spacecraft station made of solid light, just a different state of being. And this is how the experience works. And I think in the last years, these beings have been less and less able to actually show themselves because of what's going on in let's say politics. But it used to be, let's say 60 years ago, 80 years ago, 100 years ago, this was a very normal way of interacting with ETs. Yeah, any other questions or remarks or just sharings? What we'll do is also mention, we talked about how you can help, how you can get involved. And I'd just like to stress once again that just lighting a candle every day and sending one little thought in support is huge. It's because you're carrying the project on a spiritual level. You're holding space for that project. When I was involved in doing the sacred fire ceremony, the fulfillment of a prophecy in 2009 in Greenland, we had no funds. I didn't know the culture. I didn't know the language. And we made something happen that the Smithsonian Institute refused to do. The American Indian Institute, they went there and looked and they said, no, that cannot be done. We cannot have 100 people above the Arctic Circle. And I was completely naive and innocent. And so I just said, well, let's us just do it. So we did. And one of the groups, we had one for logistics, one for the finances, one for connecting to the shamans and organizing things. But we had one particular group that would do a prayer and light a candle every evening. And I could feel that we couldn't have done it without those prayers. So always, be aware that it may seem small, it may seem little, but it's huge. It is really important to have that spiritual holding of a space for a project.
It's a great idea. Thank you so much for the reminder again, Oona. We are co-creators, eh? We are co-creating, and when we come together, especially for things that are not for ourselves, we make magic. The divinity within us awakens. So it's nice when someone else prays for you, because the chances of that happening, it's incredible. And if we do it together collectively, just like we would do for peace in the world right now, then it just happens exponentially. And so that's part of what I was mentioning about. One of the biggest lessons is to cooperate, to collaborate, to come together in diversity, accepting, loving each other in harmony, enjoy highest frequency through art, having fun, whatever we're doing. And if we're not, then stop, don't do it until at least you regain that passion, that zest for life. And so thank you for that reminder again.
Yes, and thank you for mentioning that constantly creating circumstance, constantly creating consciously. It's a download I had recently that all we need to do is constantly create something beautiful. Constantly create. We don't have to go to anything else. We just have to fill this space, fill this life with what we want.
So if it's okay, and there are no other questions, and if it's okay with everyone, to close, I would love to share a prayer. I do. In case it rings a bell, I encourage you to do it also yourself. But if not, I'm just going to share it with you, okay?
Please do.
So this prayer is connected to our brothers out there and also down there. And so basically what I do is that I said that, I say my name, Aeshwa Rainbow Dragon, out of my own free will, call upon you, members of the Galactic Federation, in the highest frequencies, in the highest love, by the law of one, to counteract the disruptive interventions from some species, right? We know who they are, so I'm not going to mention them. And bring back harmony, to stay the course and tip the scales back. The law of non-intervention was broken long ago to enslave humanity. So please, your help is required to offset the original balance. And one important aspect, I call upon them as equals, because they hate to be called as gods or divine beings. No, they say, we are like you. So I call upon you as equals. And we, humanity, assume our own responsibility. It's not like we're going to sit back and let them do everything. No, we assume our responsibility and we will do whatever it takes, whatever is necessary to awake, to remember, to demand, release, and complete full disclosure for all of humanity here and now, starting in the areas of free energy, 0 point, healing innovations such as medbeds, tachyon, quantum, plasma, holographic, replication technology, and cleanup technology for our beloved Mother Earth. I invite and offer you a sanctuary of peace, a secluded, welcoming embassy where all loving, friendly species with humanity can come once again and work together for our common goals and manifest a new golden era for planet Earth. And as Tim says, all ships happily now. Aho.
Thank you, in Lakesh. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you everyone who participated, who was here, who took time off your days and your valuable time to share this beautiful collective container. I release now the elements that were here present with us and the fire, which I will preserve for next time. And I send you all love, light, blessings, clarity, guidance, happiness, and joy in whatever you're doing in your life. And all of you more than welcome to visit us here in Sardinia, the land of blue giants. Convoy.